In this week's episode, we're joined by Kerry Hanaphy, the founder of one of Ireland's best known aesthetics clinics with a new location on the way in Cork. We talk Botox, Brotox, business expansions, and the moment their entire career shift came down to a single car finance application. Seriously, this one is packed with insights, hustle, and heart. Let's get into it. Here we go. This episode is brought to you by Top Drawer Talent, the supply chain procurement recruitment specialist. Let's get into it. Here we go. How's it feel having the nickname the Lip Queen?
I know. It's one of those funny where it came from. And it's lasted for 10 years now. So I kind of feel there's many lip queens out there nowadays. But I suppose as some articles are written, I was like the original OG or
Yeah.
the veteran. I got called there recently. I didn't like that term now, I have to say.
Fair to go.
But yeah. Look, it's where I started and how I started in this industry.
Okay. And do you have many lads coming in now for the Brotox?
Loads.
Really, yeah?
Loads. I'd say, positioned where our clinic was on South William Street, the reason we ended up having a huge increase in the male clients because we targeted all the hairdressers predominantly.
Okay.
And then we targeted the George.
Okay.
So we got quite a higher percentage than the average. And now, as we call them, the man, what do we call them? The builder dads are coming in now, and there's the solicitors, and so it's for everybody.
Yeah, because I was only talking to, I think I sent you earlier, a PTI that he's like 50 plus, but he's in getting the Brotox and he loves it. It feels great.
Yeah.
But what are like some of the misconceptions like about aesthetics in the industry?
I think nowadays it's changed a little bit, but originally it was all about vanity. And it was only people that were vain and waste of money. Why would you spend money on yourself? Whereas it's really changing into wellness, and it's very much about regenerative treatments. So everything that we talk about now is health. So it's like going to the gym.
Right.
It's something that we all actually need to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not actually for vain. It's just and it makes people feel good. If you look good.
Yeah, definitely it does. It's a big impact. But like, what kind of age range is is people starting to come to you at? Like,
we start legally from 18,
18,
and we look after. And at 18, we're not talking about Botox. We're talking about your skin. So, aesthetic clinics now are predominantly about that layer of skin that you visibly see.
Yeah.
So you have 5 layers in your skin.
Okay.
So if you look at when people look at you, you that's the visible layer. So at 18, it could be covered in spots. It could be covered in pigmentation. They're on the sunbed. So we can always do something for an 18-year-old.
Okay.
To, I think at the moment, our eldest patient is probably 85.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we, all ages.
Yeah, jeez. And in terms of like the treatments, like what are the most common treatments that happens in your clinic?
Well, for years there's with the lip cream. I was like a conveyor belt of lips, lips, and I was always known, and I became known as a lip cream because of the natural lip that I did.
Okay.
I never did the duck lip. I never did the huge volumizer lip. So I would go out and I'd know I had done those lips. They weren't. And I'd go to somewhere like Liffey Valley and I'd kind of go, they're not my lips out here. I haven't done these, So over the years now I've become a specialist in very different areas. And most recently, I'm really specialising and becoming an expert in the new machine, Morpheus 8, which is a new thing.
Right, what's this do?
So Morpheus 8 is something that melts the fat on your face where we need to melt the fat.
Okay.
And it tightens the skin. So it tightens the coils in your skin.
Right.
So it's quite, you need to do 3 of them. So it's not for the faint-hearted. But the results that we're getting for people is amazing. And you need to do them once a month for 3 months.
All right, okay.
So what will I be? Morpheus Queen now.
Morpheus Queen now.
Yeah.
Is it painful to get done, or?
Look, we have very good systems in place for pain. So a lot of it is pain is sometimes stress, sometimes is not knowing what the procedure is, what's going to happen. So, but definitely pain is a physical thing as well. So we do numb you for a whole hour.
Okay.
Whereas before, I think with treatments like that, people would be numb for maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
Okay. Whereas
you do have to come in and sit with cling film on your face and be fully numbed.
Right.
And we also have injections now because the clinic is full of, we've 14 medical practitioners in the clinic. They range, they're doctors, they're dentists, some of them are doctors and dentists. Some of them are doctors and engineers. So we've
Okay.
like a lot of very highly qualified people working in the clinic.
That's brilliant. And it's the thing like where you can take the day off work. You have to take the day off work, or can you go back to work after you get something like that done?
Morpheus 8, you would have to take the day off. Yeah.
Okay.
Lip filler, no. Certain treatments that we do are lunchtime treatments, like toxin, anti-wrinkle, Botox, what people predominantly know it as, but as we call it, anti-wrinkle treatments. You could have them at your lunchtime, no problem.
Brilliant. And then the lip queen, right? Before you were the lip queen, what was school like for you coming through?
So nothing to do with this. And people
Yeah.
that know me from when I was 17, and I've two very good friends, Dana and Sally, who I travel with once a year. We go away for a week. They think it's hilarious what I do because I would be the least glam, least kind of person that
Yeah.
would get into anything that would be, as they say, vain or looking after yourself. So I was actually, my parents, my mother's Scottish and my father was Irish,
okay.
but we lived away for many years. We lived in Australia. I was born in Australia,
Right.
and we came back to Ireland in the 70s. When I was 3, and we bought a house in Tallaght, which we thought was the country, or they thought was
would
the
have been the country
country.
back
It was
then.
the country then.
Yeah.
And my mother being Scottish, they were tough enough times for her.
Okay.
And she kind of was quite a strict mother and made sure we kind of got well schooled and well into sports and everything. So we all went to school down in Crumlin.
Okay. Yeah.
And then my younger brother, he went to school in Terranure, and he got the good school. Not that was nothing wrong with our school. I take that back. But we always joke he went to private school, but we went to Loretto in Crumlin.
Okay.
And we had great memories in that school.
Yeah. 77A down, was it? Would it be back in the day?
77A down, yeah. Walking down the Tallaght village,
Right.
all the way down to Glenview Park I lived in. And for the 6 years I was there, great school.
How did you get on like academically, like in school?
I was,
Were you
as we
messing?
all get older now, you realise kind of I'm definitely dyslexic, undiagnosed, and I wouldn't have been a very good performer academically. I was always a D student, a C student, and I understand more now as I've got older. So I wouldn't be very good at. I actually have people to proofread stuff now because I read the first sentence. That's me, bored, gone, done. But I'm very practical. So I was
Okay.
always very practical. And even when I started driving and things, I'd always remember routes. You know, I never got lost. Or whereas,
That's good.
but as a child, I always wanted to be a nurse.
Okay.
So
Really? Yeah.
I was one of the lucky people. I see young people, 16, 17, they don't know what they want to do in life. But I was one of those children. 3, I was bandaging my dad. I was bandaging, loved blood, loved gore. Volunteered in the Crumlin Hospital when I was 12.
Right. Okay.
Then I just did everything to become a nurse. That was it. Nothing else would do.
Yeah. And did you work while you were in school, or did you have like a little part-time job?
I went on a Saturday to Crumlin and played with the kids as a voluntary.
Okay.
Now, back then you were allowed to do it and there was no rules and regulations, but I turned up on a Saturday and just played with the kids that were sick on the wards. And we didn't have Saturday jobs per se. My mother gave me loads of jobs though.
Right. Yeah.
And that
Clean the house.
Yeah, clean the house and do your brother's ironing basically. He didn't have to do any of it.
He stood off the hook.
Yeah, he got off the hook and we had to do jobs. We were very sporty. My mother was into badminton. We swam in the Dolphins in Tallaght swimming pool.
Right. Okay.
We were. I was also in the Order of Malta.
Okay.
My sister was into drama. They all played piano. I never did any of that. And we used to catch the 65B up and down to CYM in Terranure College, swam in Terranure. So we were very active.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you went to college in the UK, did you?
I did. So when I finished school, this is, you have to remember the late 80s. So it was 80. I was one of the kids that you went to school at 4 because my birthday is 29th of August, Michael Jackson's birthday.
Okay. Oh.
Did you know that?
No.
So 29th of August, and sure, I went to school. So I was actually
Right.
3 and a bit when I started school.
Oh, okay, so you're very young.
So I was very young. So I was actually completed education at 16.
Well, okay.
So because we didn't have 4th year then in the schools.
Okay.
So back in the school days in my time,
Right.
the girls didn't do honours maths, and there was no such thing as 4th year. You know,
Okay.
you say that out loud now, you kind of go, what?
Yeah.
So there's no, you know, we weren't allowed to do honours maths. And you
Yeah.
either became, you were lucky if you went to college and you became a nurse or a typist, secretary.
Right.
And I'm not that old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Jeez.
we then,
That's see, but like you moved to the UK then after
oh yeah,
school.
sorry, I lost my train of
No,
thought
you're
there.
gone.
So then because I always wanted to do a nurse, I did a pre-nursing course and I got a job in the hospice in Housecross,
Okay.
which was amazing. Amazing time for very fond memories of working there. And I was a pre-nursing student as such.
Okay.
And they kind of prepared you for getting into nursing. But a friend of mine at the time that I met, she didn't get into nursing here, so we all did an exam in the Shelburne, and we all passed, and we all went to the UK.
Okay, so you kind of stuck together to go to the UK?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
brilliant. And did you have to do the pre-nursing course because you didn't get the points in
No.
the leaving cert?
No,
Or you
I just wanted, no matter what, at the time, to get into things back then, you had to do everything possible. You had to every notch on your belt because they only took the true. Like I interviewed for the Mercy down in Cork, didn't get in there.
Okay.
I interviewed for many. You had to interview to get into certain places. And I would have got into Vincent's in the September, but because a few people I knew were going to London, I said, I'd be a nurse 6 months earlier and be qualified earlier.
Right.
So at the ripe old age of 17 and a half,
Thinking like this, yeah.
I went to London. My mother let me go to London.
Right.
And it was 1988. And they were great years.
I'd say it was a good time out in London.
Yeah, well, we were very secured. We were set up in the UK at the time, and the UK was, it was a good time in the UK.
Yeah.
We had free accommodation, food. We just got £200 a month, and we basically drank it. And that was it. Because we always had a roof over our head.
Okay.
There were tough times as well because there were certain things that were going on between the Irish and England at the time, and so we've great memories of, certain aspects of the UK. But Jesus, we'd some fun times.
Yeah. And what was it like working in the hospice? Like, was it just that was the only job that you could get at that time, and you just kind of you wanted a job no matter what? Or
I was just hell bent on being a nurse.
okay,
so whatever way you could get into nursing, and just care for. I obviously just had this inert desire to be a nurse. It was never to be a doctor. Now, and I still don't want to be a doctor.
Okay.
Like, it was always to be a nurse.
Okay. And were you like thinking like entrepreneurial back then, or was it just nurse?
No, just nursing. And I was very happy nursing. I worked as a nurse for many years in the UK and worked, did a lot of work in A&E, did a lot of work in haematology, would have administered chemotherapy to patients, and did a lot of, with nursing you do a lot of different types of jobs.
Yeah. Because did you work for, like, when you finish your time in the UK, right, in college, did you go into like the NHS then for a while?
So when we trained as nurses back in the day,
right,
we were called, we were trainee nurses, student nurses.
Okay.
But nowadays the nurses go to college. We trained on the job. So we actually,
so it's like an apprenticeship.
Yes. So jokingly, my friend Dan, I got told that recently. She said, "Oh, you're one of the apprenticeship nurses." So we actually didn't. That was the type of style of nursing that we did. So day one, you did 6 weeks block, which you were in reading books,
right,
and then your whole training was on the wards.
And is there like exams during that 6 week block? Or?
Yes, yeah,
there was.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So we had to pass the exams, but we nursed. So by year 3, we were in charge of wards at the time.
Right. What were you doing like after the 6 week period? Right, what were you doing? Was like changing the elderly people's nappies kind of thing, or
yeah, with your very first ward, you couldn't do anything, so you would have had to just go down and record somebody's. I always remember back very first week we had red pens, blue pens, black pens. You had your watch on, your uniform, you had your belt on, you had all the good stuff all ready to go, and you knew nothing. So but you would have to go down and take somebody's temperature and record that on the chart with the red pen. Okay. And then you'd have to do their blood pressure with the blue pen, and then you'd come back and then you'd get given another job. So it was very much, but we had to clean. We weren't allowed to sit down. There was no phones. You had to make sure everything was perfect. You weren't allowed to sit down.
Okay. And would it have been like quite strict?
Yes,
Like, okay.
yes, yeah. You
And
just
did they have like like shop runs for like the senior nurses or things like that, or was it just cleaning and taking temperatures and things?
no, you would have just been made sure you'd been given 6 patients maybe to mind,
Okay.
and for each of those patients, you would have had to do a care plan, and that which ranged from making sure they had a shave
All right.
to making sure they had their if they needed their legs massaged because they had dry skin, cut their toenails. Now
Jeez.
basic stuff,
Yeah.
things that I'm not sure that those type of things happen anymore, sadly. But um, so when you looked after a patient,
Yeah.
they were 100% yours from top to toe. Their locker, you had to make sure their locker was clean. So
Okay.
so we did everything for the person.
Jeez. And so, like year two, then, like, what are you doing then? Are you like getting to administer like IV drips or
Yes,
whatever it
year
is?
two, and you do different. You would be surgical, medical,
Okay.
psychiatry, midwifery. So you'd go through a 3-year program
Yeah.
where you'd get a taste of everything, working in A&E, working out in the community,
Right.
working with psychiatrists, driving around doing house calls. So you got a really good being in an ambulance, the back of an ambulance
Okay.
when
So you
it's
look really well.
blue light, and so they were. It was fun training,
Yeah.
very good training.
Did you ever get to deliver a baby or did
Delivered
you
a
witness it?
few babies, yeah.
Yeah.
So we did 2 months
Okay.
delivered babies. That's an amazing experience because obviously
Yeah.
I've had 2 daughters. You don't get to see that end, but to physically be at that end to
Yeah.
see it, you see the dad's fainting. I had one of those that
Really?
clapped
Yeah.
his head on his
Be
way
taking
down.
the gas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You do. You see a lot as a nurse. I saw a lot, but I saw a lot in the hospice, a lot of dying patients,
Yeah.
and
Is that quite hard, like mentally, like especially at 17? If you
I
had
know
baby.
it. Like people
Like,
often ask me that, and you kind of go, I never, no, I don't. It never affected me, and we would be trained in how to kind of, people that sadly had just passed away. We'd wash them and prepare them for going down to the mortuary, and we'd bring them down ourselves and
right.
um, lift them. We didn't have porters;
Yeah.
we were the porters.
Okay.
So I think things have improved, and um,
Yeah.
but I think some of the stories that you tell your kids now, they go, "No way, you did
Yeah,
that."
you didn't do that. Yeah. I
Yeah,
say that's quite tough. Like I don't
yeah.
know if you able for.
My
But
claim to fame in the hospice was the hothouse flowers.
okay, what's
Um,
this now?
I always remember they were a budding band, and it was the early '80s, and one of their she's on the very front page of one of their albums,
Okay.
and I think it's one of their aunties. I can't remember who it was, but
Right.
yeah, she was there, and they were in every day for the whole time, not knowing that they were going to be a big band. Yeah,
Jeez, that's
yeah.
crazy. And surgery then, right? Are you ever in like an open heart surgery rooms or?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, you get to experience amputations. I've seen amputations. I've seen aortic valve replacement. Like, yeah, you've seen, yeah, just a basic
Okay.
appendectomy removal. So you do get to see a lot. So you
Yeah.
can't be squeamish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jesus.
you look like you're about to keel over there.
Oh no,
Yeah,
me.
like, yeah.
But
No, but I would love all that,
okay, yeah.
And then working in A&E, in the old A&Es when, like in London, people didn't wear seatbelts back in the day. Well, Irish people didn't wear seatbelts.
Yeah, it's
Um,
a good thing.
the UK were better with seatbelts, but then many people didn't wear seatbelts back in the '80s, so there was a lot of serious road traffic accidents that you would see, and actually back then they would have direct admission to wards as well. They didn't necessarily always go into A&E, so you saw quite acute stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Do you think like with that, like the way you kind of went through the ranks, like of a 4 year type of apprenticeship, do you think like should bring that back maybe instead of having it all
I
classroom based?
absolutely think, and I think the nurses now will say it themselves.
Yeah.
They get to do a lot more in fourth year,
Okay.
but then they really have to learn, so they're qualified, and then it takes them another 6 months a year to. Now their knowledge base is probably way higher than our knowledge base, but
Okay.
I think nursing is still a very practical job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's taking the good from one and the good from another and amalgamating it, but sometimes
Yeah.
we forget the old ways as well.
Would you have been encouraged like from your early days and back home like to become a nurse and like
Yes,
be led on that path?
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother was very good with that, and my dad, like, yeah, and we didn't come from a wealthy family or anything. We came normal kind of. My dad's Crumlin, one of 18, 15, well 15 I think, but she had 18 pregnancies.
Jeez.
So Stanaway Road, Captain's Drive, that
Yeah.
kind of
My
true
nanny's
Crumlin.
actually from the liberties and shit, like 21 kids.
Yes,
It's
yes.
crazy, yeah.
I was in school, in primary school, with a girl that had 22 sisters and brothers.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think like there was like 18 girls and like 6 boys or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And their
or 16
stories.
girls.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like my dad, unfortunately, he died when he was he got leukemia when he was 45, and he was died. So he's 30 years dead this year. So he was only 50 when he died. But I do remember the stories, and even from their siblings, like
Yeah.
they didn't have shoes.
Okay.
You
Jeez.
know, they had six in a bed, and that's our lifetime, which is crazy to
Yeah,
think, isn't
it's
it?
crazy because they would have all topped and tailed and stuff. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
super close now though.
Are they?
Like yeah,
Yeah.
all sisters are going really well, except for like obviously have their arguments, but they fix it like and it stays in house, which is good.
Imagine being pregnant 21 times.
Yeah, no, every year for 21 years or something. It's mental. But I can't imagine that
No.
nowadays. Like it just doesn't happen. But
No.
in terms of like yourself, like do you think like parents nowadays like encourage their kids to go down the medical route or like become nurses or doctors?
I think it does. Like, we often talk about it in our family, like, because there's three daughters, a son, and like very strong females in the family.
Okay.
And everybody's kind of got a career path. But my mother was quite a strong, or is, sorry, a strong woman. So we were always encouraged to be quite active.
Okay.
She didn't drink. She was a smoker years and years ago, but she wasn't a drinker.
Yeah.
And I do think it helps with the home life. Yeah, there was loads of, fights and things going on as well in our house. It
Yeah.
wasn't the perfect family. My dad liked the old pints of Guinness, and you could hear them killing each other. But I think it did help if we wanted to do something.
It was
We were encouraged. We were in all the activities. We weren't, there wasn't a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
But you had your one pair of shoes and your one pair of. Now I sound like I'm from the 1920s, don't I? But I swear to God,
Sure.
yeah,
Reality's of it.
it's
Yeah.
true. But we, I suppose you just learn to. I had a drive. My dad, had a big drive, and he was always like very proud because my sister was the first of a line of Hanafys to go to college.
Okay.
And she got into Kevin Street College at the time. She got a science degree, which was a big thing for us.
Okay.
So we always say, like, and nowadays I've met many different walks of life, people from different backgrounds, and they come from, especially when you meet medical doctors, they come from lines of
Doctors.
through history repeating, whereas we're the first generation of
medical.
true education. Yeah.
That's like I think in order to get more people into like the medical industry, I think doctors and nurses shouldn't have to pay tax, especially
Really?
if they're employed by the HSE, right? Because it's government funded.
Jesus, I have to
Do you not
get
think
you
that-
into government.
Yeah,
don't
do you not think that would be fair enough for like because they're complaining like the new hospital in James is like they're
Yes.
like how are we gonna staff this now? We spent X million on it, but not that many people are becoming nurses and doctors nowadays, and it's not really encouraged by Irish families.
It's very hard to get into medicine,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of points and a lot of study, and academically, I always think with education is your key
Yeah,
to changing your life.
yeah, definitely.
It really is.
Fastest route out poverty.
Even if it's a PLC, even if it's a night course and it's once a week, education is your route to. Because I was, and we got onto that, like rearing two kids of my own with very little money, and the only way I got out of it was because I had my nursing.
Yeah,
And I had that. So what I'm always, even on a daily basis, if I see young people coming in for their lips and they're going, "I'd love to do what you did, Kerry, and how do I do it?" I'd always say, you're 28, you're 32, you're 36, get your qualification, go
Yeah.
back and get it. Because I didn't start making money until I was 42.
okay, yeah,
So like you think it's all over when you're only 34,
yeah,
and you think, "Oh no, I'm not going to make," but you can make money later in life.
yeah, definitely. And in terms of right, someone that wants to become sorry, before we move on to that,
Yeah.
right? You left the NHS, you came back to
So I
the
left
HSE,
the NHS, and
and then you went to work in a pharmaceutical company, did you?
so what happened to me was I had my daughter.
Okay,
So I met Emily's dad, and I was 21, very young,
okay,
and he was a city trader in London, which
Right.
was brought with it a certain lifestyle,
Mhm.
which was like fun and games and sociability, and he had a sports car, and he had a this, and he had that,
Nice.
and we had a great.
Yeah.
He was 28 though, So, and he was ready to settle down. So he asked me to marry him, and I said yes.
Yeah, why not?
And we had big wedding, big whole lifestyle. And
Okay.
Emily was born when I was 23, and I think we realised after 6 months we actually didn't like each other. And then that was the end of that.
Right.
So I was 25 now, and but what happened was when I got pregnant with Emily, at that time, which is 1993, you couldn't, you either worked as a nurse full time or you didn't.
Right.
There was no such thing as part-time work as a
Okay.
parent. So I had to give it up. So the only job that I could get at the time was to work as a practice nurse.
Okay. What's up?
So in 93, a practice nurse works with a GP,
Okay.
and they would take your blood. They would do wellness clinics. So anytime you need to see the doctor, you might see the nurse. You might do a smear test.
Or
Or
injections.
yeah,
or
injections,
Right.
flu injections. So I worked in a GP practice in Lewisham. And I did that while Emily was small. But whilst I was there, I actually carried on and studied again and learned to become proficient in managing asthma patients. So then I did a diploma in asthma management.
Right. So it was
So
constant.
yeah, So like,
Yeah.
I think as a nurse and a medical professional, we're constantly training.
You have to be.
So you learn that very early on, that you don't stop. And I actually had this at work the other day, because one of the staff said, "Oh my God, do we have to do another training session?"
Yeah.
And I'm kind of going, "It's constant. You do, because you learn something."
Okay.
But anyway, I did that 1993 to 1995. And then I got a call from a pharmaceutical company, say they were looking for an asthma specialist nurse.
Right.
And they'd give me a car, laptop, phone, pension, salary.
Yes. Was this back in Ireland now?
This is back in England.
Oh, okay.
This is UK. This is with Glaxo Wellcome, they were called at the time.
GSK.
GSK, yeah. So they were hiring nurses to educate patients in GP settings.
Right.
So I did that job, and I did that job for 12 years. So that job took me back to Ireland.
Okay.
And then I worked for GSK in Ireland. I moved back to Ireland in 1998. This is where it gets a bit messy now, Conor.
Right. Okay.
You got to keep up now.
Okay.
It gets a bit messy in my life. So I was divorced and I came back with Emily. She was 5. We moved back to Dublin.
Right.
And then I got a job with GSK. Then at that time, I bought my first house in Woodstown.
Right. Okay.
Up near Hunterswood in Knockline. It was Knockline, that border
Yeah.
road there. You're either Hunterswood or you're either Fairhouse or you're Knockline. So yeah. And it's like D16, D24. So I was on the D16 side.
You get the postcode.
Yeah, I got the postcode. And 3 weeks into moving into this new house, I met a Tyler.
Okay.
And that developed into a relationship, and he was a very unsettled guy, let's just say, and we ended up moving to Australia after 2 years.
Right. Okay.
So I was still working for GSK, and he had been living in Australia, and he kind of gave me the bug of something that I'd never done, and because I was born in Australia, I was like, oh, here's an opportunity now that I look back on it.
Yeah.
So I was now 28, 29, and we took off, much to my mother's disgust. With his 2 dogs in tow.
Okay.
I paid for it to get over, let's just say. And we moved to Australia. It's never coming back. That was me, emigrated,
That was
gone.
You thought you were done, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Off I go with my 8-year-old daughter at the time.
And how was Australia?
Australia was good. We lived in Melbourne. Loads of family in Melbourne, because that's where my parents are from. But loads of family. So a lot of the... my Paddy Hanaphy from Crumlin, he would live there, and he's been there. So my parents went in the 60s, and then that's how we ended. So I thought I'd love it. I just was the wrong person to travel with in hindsight, but you'd think you would learn from that, but I didn't. I got married in Australia.
Okay.
So we got married in Victoria Park, and it was a period of my time. It wasn't a very healthy relationship.
Right. Okay.
And it was very turbulent type of time. It was one of those kind of up, good or not so good. And when it wasn't good, it was very bad.
Okay.
So we moved back to Ireland. We actually moved back to England. Then we moved to Ireland. Then we moved.
What did you do when you were in Australia? You worked as a nurse as well? Did you?
Worked as a nurse in A&E. Yeah.
A&E,
So I was still nursing, and worked in all fantastic hospitals. And nursing in Australia is amazing.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you get a lot more hands-on in Australia than you would have in Ireland or the
They're
UK?
just very advanced with their organization. So
Right.
the systems in place, the hospitals, the fantastic system.
Yeah. What was your job when you were in Australia? Like, I know it was A&E, right? Was this just A&E, like everything that kind of came in, or was it specialized too?
So when you work in A&E, you can either work in the minor surgery. So
Yeah.
depends on your shift. You get put into different departments.
Okay.
A lot of the time, it would have been over there. I think at the time it was like 3-to-1 nursing.
Right.
So whereas here you could be 1 to 15 patients.
Okay.
You know, whereas maximum over there, you're not allowed to look after more than 3 people at a time.
And that's for the intensive care unit,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
So they would they'd make sure they had enough staff on to let
Yeah.
that happen. But what I did then when I got my transfer through, so I actually transferred with GSK as well, and I worked for GSK in
In Australia.
Australia.
Okay. So
And
they must have liked you because they kept.
they kept me on.
Yeah.
So I set up their asthma services over there.
Ah, okay.
And I did get offered the job in Sydney, but it was the relationship was turbulent and work was always good.
Yeah.
And we left. And
Okay.
that was, yeah. So then I came back and worked for GSK in Ireland.
Okay.
So I did GSK, UK, Australia and Ireland.
Okay. And that's one of the benefits of working with a global company, right? You can kind of
Yes, they move you around.
move
Yeah.
around if you're good.
If you're good. And I was good at, and this is where the clinic kind of developed because I was already now setting up asthma clinics.
Right.
I had to write a book for them, so that new nurses who came on board,
Okay.
how to successfully run an asthma clinic. So I wrote that book.
So this is like your procedures and processes of like this
and
is
it's
how you
still
get-
used to this day in Australia.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez, okay.
yeah. So it's
Congratulations.
yeah, I know. So it was a bit of an achievement when I was 29.
Yeah.
Now it's only about asthma. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's okay.
one topic. But it was look, it's a nice, and look, nowadays it's fantastic to
Yeah.
be able to, even if patients are there, when you do something for 12 years and you specialize at it,
Yeah.
I can hear it when they breathe, I can hear it when they talk, and you can see it in their eyes,
Right.
people that have asthma. So I can still
not
give them
judging
the,
me.
yeah, I'm looking at you now. No, you're fine. But yeah, so then when I came back, I was kind of, what year were we now? Jeez, it gets so confusing.
Okay.
Um,
But you're back in Ireland then after being
back in Ireland, yeah,
GSK.
and kind of worked with GSK again, and then
Cool.
for a little stint, then moved to the UK
Cool.
because we were very unsettled. I think when you
Okay.
travel, and people who travel will realize if you've lived away for a very long time, I was away from the age of really 16,
16.
17 to 34.
Yeah. Was it a case like where the UK felt more like home than Ireland?
Yeah, I was just so very UK based in my outlook as well with businesses, and then you'd come here and you kind of go, we're not at that point here yet.
Just the Irish mentality is
Yeah.
kind of just slower to
Yeah,
kind of
and then
adopt.
having your family literally on your doorstep was very different.
Yeah.
When you're used to being away for so long,
left
and
alone, yeah.
where are you going? What are you doing? You're not coming for dinner, kind of.
Yeah. Or
and
you
you-
kind of
When you're very independent,
yeah.
so
Doesn't suit.
it didn't suit me at that time.
Okay.
So because I had married Alana's dad, and I was then pregnant. That was 2001.
Right.
With Alana. So we moved to the UK. That was in 2001.
Okay.
So from Australia, we kind of came back to Ireland for a bit, maybe lasted 6 months, and we moved to the UK again.
Right.
So we did another 3 years in the UK.
Jeez.
And at that time, I did my asthma clinics around.
Right.
But it was there that through a very, very difficult financial time, I had to learn how to do something. I
Okay.
had to learn how to earn more money.
Okay. So it was
Because-
purely out of necessity that you needed
Purely
to
out of
develop that
necessity.
hustle mentality.
Yes, and I going,
Okay.
he's not providing.
Right. So what age are you then when
I
that
was
hustle mentality kind of kicked in?
34.
34.
34. So as I've learned now, the more I learn about myself, it was nearly an epiphany in life as a female
Yeah.
that now females are better nowadays about being independent. I think when we grew up, it was like you have to get married, you have to settle down, you have to buy a house and
Okay.
live happily ever after. And that was kind of
Yeah.
the way you grew up in our Cinderella years.
Fashion.
Yeah, it was old
mentality.
fashioned. And whereas I kind of said, do you know what? I need to do this myself
Okay. Yeah.
rather than sit at home and just because I've had a baby, I need to find a way of making the money and get the money on the
Yeah.
table. So I researched courses as a nurse that I could do as an extra nixer.
Right.
And there was a course down in Reigate, this was in
In the UK.
2004, to learn how to do fillers.
Right.
And it was £1,000, which I didn't have.
Right. Okay.
And I said, feck it, I'll find £1,000.
Yeah. What did you do to get the £1,000? Did you borrow it? Did
Do
you
you know, I
just save it
often
up? or-
wonder that because
Okay.
credit cards, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I did leave with a bit of a credit card bill, so I presume it was a credit card.
Right.
Paid for it and left it on that credit card bill. I hope they don't come looking for me. No, they're all paid. All my debts are paid now.
Yeah.
But I did live on credit cards, as
Right.
many people do
Yeah,
when you're
people
in
do,
you know in your 30s, and paid for the course. That was 34, and it was the best thing I ever
Right.
did.
Was that like when you had like this could be really big for me, or
No.
this is just an extra few
No,
quid?
this was an extra €50 a week.
Okay.
And it was an extra €50 a week. 2004, 2005, I came back to Ireland, and I remember coming back home to Glenview and moving in with my mum. We'd separated, that was all done and dusted, and I'd say I had around €400 in my pocket.
Oh.
And I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I know people say these things, but I didn't, and lived at home with my mum, and I said, right, got a job straight away, got my GSK job back.
Class.
And I started working in A&E in Tallaght for extra money. And then so I knocked into Core Beauty in Tallaght. The girls know me very well up there.
Okay.
And they're very good friends of mine now, with me. And I said, do you want me to do a lip filler clinic? And they didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And
Because with the Kardashians or the Beverly Hills
wasn't even
Housewives.
there yet. No. This is
Okay.
only 2006.
Right. So what was it that like prompted or like you know lit a fire into this industry like so early on? Like, or what?
It's very interesting because now there's loads of people in their late 30s, 40s in it. And so that's why a lot of companies ask me to talk for things back in those days. Lip fillers had no anesthetic in them. They were very, very painful. I did them in certain salons or hairdressers around different places, and there were a few people that knew about it in the industry. People who were very vain
Okay.
back in 2004
Right.
would know about this industry because it was huge in America.
Okay.
Not huge, but it was big
up
in
and
America.
coming.
It was
Movie
up and
stars,
coming.
maybe.
The movie stars.
Okay.
So people that loved looking at and they knew about it would find you. So there were days I'd sit in places for hours hoping somebody might ring or and you know, if I got one person, I was delighted.
Right.
I'd drive over the M50 over to the north side. So I picked all the working class areas.
Yeah.
That was my motto in it.
Yeah.
Because there were people doing it,
Yeah.
but it was all around Ballsbridge.
Okay. So more.
So it was
affluent
more
areas.
affluent areas, Malahide. So to say, so I said, right, let's do Tallaght. Let's go to Finglas. Let's go to over towards Darndale, Donamead. Let's go to different areas.
Okay.
And I set up over the time 50, at minimum 50 places.
Whoa. Okay.
And I did one here, one there, one there.
And how was it working for you, right? So were you like going in saying if we get one clinic and you know, or if we get one person comes through, you'll get like 10%, or were you paying rent in all 50 locations, or
No.
did they just let you come in because it
Yeah.
was good for their business?
Yeah, so it was such a new, and people still do it to this day when you're starting out. You'll go into a salon and say, look, I'll you advertise.
Yeah.
They would do the advertisement, and if anybody comes in, once you pay the product, pay your time.
Yeah.
We'll split the proceeds.
Okay.
So yeah, so
what would it
it only
cost back then, like to get the lips done?
they were very expensive, very like it was, but it was expensive. Say in the clinics. So what I used to do was, as long as I covered the cost of the product and the cost of doing the treatment,
Okay.
and I made even 50 quid, I was delighted. So I was able to keep the cost low.
Yeah.
And then what started to happen, and it probably wasn't until 2012.
Right. Okay. So.
So it was many years.
Yeah.
2011, 2012, and I look back and on chats that I do now for people, is I look back on my Facebook, not Instagram.
That's where you would have mainly marketed yourself on Facebook.
Yeah, so I was the original only business that advertised on Facebook.
Okay.
Nobody else did it.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's what made me big at the time, because people didn't do Facebook.
Yeah, there probably wasn't even Facebook business pages back
No,
then.
there was nothing like that.
Yeah.
There was a girl in Little Kiva was her name, and she was from Tallaght. Don't
Okay.
know if you've ever heard of her.
I
And
haven't
she was
personally.
very ahead of her time. She lives in Sydney now, but she would do little videos. She had a little mic, and she'd do a video in her bedroom.
Right.
And then I said, "Oh, will you do a video of me doing a lip filler?"
Okay.
And that went viral.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that was 2011.
So you're an early adopter.
So we're a
of social
very early
media.
adopter on social media.
Yeah.
And in and around that time, then the Kylie Jenner.
Ah, okay. This is
She
what
got her lips
kicked
done.
off.
She had the thin lips, then she got the and then we used Facebook and that platform to push the business. We didn't have
Right.
a base landline. Never had a landline.
Just the phone.
Yeah, we just had the phone and Instagram. All our bookings, or sorry, Facebook. All our bookings came through Facebook.
Jeez.
Every single booking.
Okay.
And then what I did, I closed everything down eventually
Right.
to all the different small clinics that I was doing, and I picked 3 good ones.
Okay.
And I had a guy, Simon, who worked with me. He'd run around with me, and he's now a hedge fund financial guy.
Okay, so you
Imagine
trained
that.
them well.
Trained him well, and he was in the midst of doing a master's degree, and he was from Mark's up, Mark's in Tallaght.
Yeah.
He worked, my kids worked in Eddie Rockets,
Okay.
and he was there needing a job. And I said, well, if he follows me around when I'm doing the injections, the phone was starting to ring, you see.
Answer the phone.
He answered my mobile. He was just holding the mobile. It wasn't even in a base.
So you had like a PA, basically.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it was a tall, and it was very strange when we laugh about it now, because Simon was quite tall,
Okay.
male,
Yeah.
in an industry, and he's going, nope. And he'd run and get me coffee, and then I rented a space on Dame Street.
Okay, so this is the start. But you
This
still
was
kept
the
your
start.
full-time job, right?
Oh, I had to.
Yeah.
I was only earning maybe 200, 300 euros a month,
Right. Okay. So
400 euros a month.
this
maybe.
was like after like
This
you
is-
bought
this
your
is little-
stock and kind of.
This is a little extra, and it was like clearing the debt that I had, and
Yeah.
paying my electricity bill. That
Okay.
so I had piles of debt
Right.
from
Just over the years.
just over the years. I had old credit cards that all got left to me. He ran away, and I got left with it all.
Okay.
And then he went back to Australia,
Right.
not to be seen for many years. And but look, it was easier because I just said, that's it. It's just me and the 2 girls, and we got on with it.
So like, were you like in work taking bookings while you're in work, or you had your PA taking bookings, or like kind of doing it on the side, doing both things,
No,
double jobbing really?
Yeah, to go
Like
come back
flying
down.
out on your
Yeah.
lunch break to do an injection kind of thing.
Yeah. So what I was working for. I was at a point in the pharmaceutical. I changed careers. I changed
Yeah, jobs.
jobs basically, and what I used to do is I'd go out on a Thursday evening,
Okay.
and I'd go out on a Friday evening, and I'd work on a Saturday.
Right.
And so it didn't interfere with the actual job that I was doing,
Okay.
but what was happening was it was extra income.
Right.
So I was still earning my money from that job, and I had a car,
Right.
and I had the phone, and funnily enough, the phone number is still the same phone number.
Really?
So when I look in the contents or the contacts that I have, I still loads of pharmaceutical contacts. Just from over the years of having.
Yeah.
So that's William Street's number.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
So it's still the same
so I
number.
kept that mobile number.
Yeah.
But it never interfered with my job. But it got to a point that I kind of was, going, will I chance this or
Yeah.
not? So I could see more money coming in.
Did it ever pay you more than your jobs in a
Yes.
month?
Yes.
Okay. So that's
That's
when.
when I kind of, So we're now 2012, and I still hadn't met Barry or anything yet. So I was still single, and I was 42, 2 kids.
Right.
Too
busy just.
Just kind of busy clearing what we'd built, and kind of trying to get them set up, and making sure they had everything.
Yeah.
So I suppose the downside of being you're run ragged yourself.
Yeah.
So there were times in pharmaceuticals I would have been pulled in going, oh, you could maybe do with a new suit, or that kind of way, or when at your appraisals, and or you're tired, or I never got the big promotions, as in, because they knew I had 2 kids at home.
Oh,
Now
okay.
I don't know.
You wouldn't get away with that
I
nowadays.
wouldn't get
right?
away with it now, but
Oh.
it is hard to ask somebody to say over in Galway when they know. But they were always exceptionally supportive
Right.
of. They knew it was tough at home.
Yeah.
But we had a nice life. Don't get me wrong. The
Yeah.
kids, I had very easy kids. They never caused me any problems.
It's good.
Except Emily was quite unwell as well, which I probably didn't mention. I haven't mentioned any of that. But so
Right.
we had to deal with all her medical issues. She was born with a birthmark.
Okay.
And she was born with problems with her eyes at the time. So through all these different periods of my life, we would have had to run to hospitals and stuff with her. So
some amount of hurdles,
it wasn't straightforward. But I always think the turning point financially was when I was 42.
Okay.
I woke up and that pile, I always had around 10 to 20 letters from gas, Ford gas, electricity bills, your phone bill, your this, your that bill, you know.
Okay.
And we know what it's like. And the property, do you remember the property bills that you got every year?
The property tax.
Tax, yeah. And all these, and they were all on paper. And you'd get them through and they'd build up and build up. But what I always did with all my debt is I paid a $5 or a $10. I
Just
never
kinda kept the turn.
I never let them kind of,
Yeah.
they built, but I think
Yeah.
once, and it would be one thing when you're in that
You're showing
level
that
of
you're
debt,
paying.
you have to make the effort. If you kind
Yeah.
of hide, and people do hide under,
Yeah.
they disappear, don't they? And then it's the worst thing to do.
Okay.
But once I had cleared my debt, I said to the girls at home, I said, look, I think it's time. I'm my boss.
Yeah.
I said, this is a potentially good business. Like you said, I was earning as much.
Yeah.
And I thought I'll give it a go. So I said to my boss at the time, I have this idea. Don't know if it'll work. I'm going to give it a go. And he said, look, your job is always here if it doesn't. So take 6 months. Terrifying.
Yeah. It's
Absolutely terrifying. But what we did was we went into Ayrton Road in Tallaght,
Okay.
into the Ford garage there, and it was 2014 at this time. And I said, if I can get the lease for that Ford Kuga,
Right.
and we will, I'll do it.
Make it happen.
I'll actually make it happen.
Why was the lease or the car so important?
Because I was used to company cars.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to go drive around in a banger.
Right.
Even though I was always broke, I always had a nice car.
Yeah. Well, what you were doing was kind of prestigious in a way, or
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just
you wanted the car.
the car, yeah. And it wouldn't be, yeah, I like a nice car.
Yeah. That's
And I was used to nice cars. I always had brand new cars
right.
all through my life because of working for
company cars,
pharmaceutical
yeah,
companies.
that's one of the benefits, right? Of,
And
like,
then I was married to a trader. We had it like we'd a fast cars.
yeah, nice.
So I was used to, my very first car was like Renault 5 GTI Turbo.
Okay, so
It was very spoiled
yeah,
on the car front.
right. So the car was a big thing.
The
for
car was a big thing, and it was more that if I got the lease, I knew I didn't have any debt. You know, like
you. Right. Yeah.
You're-
So was it a lease or was it finance or what?
finance.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and they gave it to me.
Yeah.
I was like, geez, we were running out of there going, no way that
Yeah,
they gave
happy
it to
days.
me. Yeah, so I was delighted. We went to New York. Emily was 21. Alana was 11. There's a 10-year gap between the two of them. And I always remember having money, debts cleared, and a nice... I took my mum with us and we went and had a great trip
time.
to New York and came back. And that was kind of the turning point.
Yeah. How did it feel? Right. Like, was it like jumping off a cliff for you, or did you feel because you'd been doing it on the side that you were ready now to do it full
No,
time?
it was jumping off a cliff
Yeah.
because I didn't have the security of another person's income.
Okay.
So, and when you start out on your own, you've got a diary and you look ahead, whereas when you PAYE, you're guaranteed your wage.
Yeah.
When you look ahead and think in 2 weeks' time, oh my God, there's nobody booked in.
It's not money.
There's no money coming in. Now, the only thing I had a 10 grand fall back on.
Okay. So you had a bit of cash.
So I had that ready.
Yeah.
And I had my job to go back to.
Okay. So you had a
So I
small bit of
Yeah.
security.
And I always say to people, I said, you never, like, even if you hate your job, never leave on a bad note.
Yeah.
You never know when you need it back.
Yeah. It's
And sometimes you think it's the worst job in the world until you find something that's worser, as they say.
yeah. What advice now would you give to someone that's like, thinking about leaving their job to start their own business? Like, what advice would you give them, or what do they need to know? Is there any information you can share?
The one thing, the biggest thing that I found surprising, everybody goes, it's great to be your own boss,
Yeah.
is all these memes. It's like, you know, if you want to be your own boss, make sure you're prepared for the 80 hours that
Yeah.
you do, you know. And it's more than that. It's not even 80 hours. It's 24/7.
Yeah, it's non-stop. I see people online all the time, or be your own boss and work the hours you want. If you want to have a business, you're working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like, and it's non-stop.
It's nonstop, and it's still nonstop. And people will look, and who know me for years now doing this, especially the last 10 years, and go, Kerry's done well. And it has, we've done exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But I don't stop.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever retire?
No.
No.
No. I think definitely, like, I'm 55 this year.
Okay.
Barry is like, come on, Kerry, now when 60 hits, we've got to be doing something different.
Yeah.
But no, I think if I'm doing not 7 days a week,
Yeah.
like Sundays now, you can't get me off the couch.
Okay.
Like, you can't
Rest
get me
day,
out of the
Sunday.
house. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
But and that's why I'd loathe to open any clinics on a Sunday,
Right.
because the minute they're open, there's always some text that
Yeah,
comes
something
through.
will go wrong, yeah.
And Irish people are great for chill out Sundays, aren't we?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice. I like a Sunday off.
We
now,
do,
so,
don't we? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't like now 8 o'clock on a Sunday. I'll probably check the emails or make the plan for the Monday, but Sunday's off.
Sunday is off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right, so you went out on your own. Did you open up a premises, or were you still flying around the 3 locations?
So what happened to me, which advice to people, if you don't come from a wealthy background,
Yeah.
and if you don't have the connections. So what I met Barry in 2015,
Right.
and he's a Cork man, and he was a dentist.
Right.
So he had a lot of connections in a bit more affluent areas
Okay.
in business, I should say, however you say that.
Right.
So he was able to connect me with people who would have suggestions on how to make your business
Yeah.
better.
Right.
So I think if you have an idea, you need to look up and find people that are doing well, and don't be shy in asking,
Yeah.
because people are always out there to help.
Yeah,
They generally are, you know.
Yeah, I think you have to pass it, like, as an entrepreneur, you have to pass it back. I could get like a lot of
You
advice.
do,
from
and
everyone.
I'm absolutely openly happily give everything, any advice to anybody. But I do think you need to look above what's around you, and what maybe nobody, like my sister helped me financially. She was in a better position to me. I remember she lent me her credit card.
Okay.
She was a bit sorry for that, but anyway, I did pay her back. I bought her a nice handbag.
Okay. That's fair enough.
But you do have to. Barry introduced me to
Okay.
business people.
Right.
You know, so it's your connections. Make connections.
Yeah.
Join groups.
Yeah.
You know, Network Ireland have great connections now
Yeah,
for
yeah.
businesses. So find people who have ideas.
Yeah. So your network is your network, really, right?
It is, yeah. And it's like when I met Barry, then he was able to introduce me to my current builder.
Okay.
And it was just because he was a friend of his friends. The builders that we have now have been with me all the way through to build all the clinics.
Okay.
Yeah. So they
class.
have it down pat now. Like, they're down in Cork at the moment now. They started that
Starting
2
a new
weeks
clinic.
ago.
Yeah, because when is the one in Cork due to be open?
So if all goes to plan, the 11th of August.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
Congratulations.
we are
Hopefully-
very excited for that. Very excited for that.
Brilliant. If someone wants a job with you, right,
Yes.
what are you looking for?
So as always, when you come into our team, we have a really great team.
Yeah.
Nice personalities. No, you know, we're it's very important. Experience is one thing.
Mhm.
Keenness to work. The ability to want to learn is the most important thing.
Yeah.
We can teach you, we can train you, but you have to be very open to learn.
Okay.
So yeah, reach out. We're always, and especially now with Cork,
You're on the lookout for stuff.
doctors. We're on looking for doctors, nurses, dentists, skin therapists, clinic manager. That's your baby.
That's the big.
That's what you want.
Okay, so
There's
any clinic managers.
any clinic managers, a good clinic managers.
What kind of
saves your
background
bacon.
does a clinic manager come from? Is it like a GP or a hospital or?
So interestingly, we have a staff member at the moment that came to me she'd only moved over from the UK, and she'd no particular qualification. She just landed here, and she needed a little job, and we needed somebody to sit at reception and answer the phone. She now is assistant to the operations manager of our business.
Okay.
So, and
Good
hopefully she'll do payroll this year, and we can put people on courses. So a clinic manager not necessarily do you have to have a particular skill, but obviously if you've managed a system like Forest that we have,
Yeah.
a lot of hair salons have it, a lot of beauty salons,
Okay.
it is a help, and that understand that's a CRM system. But you can train a person, a clinic managers
Okay.
in your making, I think.
It's personality.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
And what about like aesthetics, right? If someone wants to get involved in the whole aesthetics world, do you have to be a doctor or a dentist or a nurse or?
No, and to do certain things in aesthetics, and I say this a lot,
Yeah.
and I train a lot now.
Okay.
And I was in Nuri training 6 brand new aesthetic nurses yesterday.
Right.
Botox anti-wrinkle injections aren't the be all and end all. You have to be a doctor, a dentist. If you're a nurse nowadays, the rules are if the doctor's in the room and in the location and he's prescribed it, you can administer it.
Right.
So you can't set up a business as a nurse on your own doing anti-wrinkle injections because it's a prescription, it's a medicine.
Get you.
So you don't need to build your business just around that.
Okay.
There's like microneedling. Have you heard of microneedling?
Yeah, I've seen pictures on your Instagram.
Huge at the moment.
This is where you inject collagen, is it?
So microneedling is like a little gadget that you have, and
Okay.
it goes around and you put serums on your skin, and there's new treatments called exosomes.
Right.
There's like I actually woke up the other night, actually last night, with a whole new business about these saunas. Like there's saunas pumping up every day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a hydration kit and give them out to all the saunas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a great idea.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you thought about that last night?
Yeah, because some places don't even sell them, and sauna hats as well. I do.
Yeah.
I use some saunas, right?
I know.
And I was like, why don't you have sauna hats for sale? No, I think
Yeah.
there's
So
one
I
place that has them.
I made it today, and I thought there's a little bag. So we have a water, Kerry Hanaphy water. We have a Kerry Hanaphy moisturiser and a Kerry Hanaphy lip balm. Off you go to the sauna now and have a nice time.
Yeah, brilliant. That's
There's
great.
my new idea now.
Yeah. Okay.
You heard it first.
We'll pump it out. Yeah.
But you can make a business on.
Yeah.
You got to just not. I made a business on lip fillers,
Yeah.
knowing that you can't do it. But too many people focus on what they think they want, they can't, should be able to do because of laws and regulations.
Okay.
Focus on what in your code of conduct of your qualification is safe for you to do.
Yeah.
You can build a business.
And is it all like is aesthetics, right? Is it just based on like the face, like because like lips and Botox mainly go into the face, or is there like other products like and does it cover the whole body?
It's now covering the whole body. Like
Okay.
we do treatments now on you can do Morpheus 8 on your stomach. You can do treatments on your arms. Obviously with all these GLPs, the weight loss injections, where you're seeing a lot of people coming in with weight loss on problems with arms and bodies and
Okay, this is the like excess skin.
excess skin.
Right.
Obviously we're not surgical.
Yeah.
But definitely women's health, men's health.
Right.
A lot more. There's clinics doing tests for testosterone. We'd love to introduce testing for vitamin B12.
Okay. This is like the IV drips.
Yeah.
with bad
Like I've
hangover.
looked at doing the IV drips before, and we're on the verge of reintroducing it again. It's just people faint a lot. It's a lot of management with IV drips. It's not as simple as just sticking the IV drip in, and you can have adverse reactions to vitamin C, and so there's a bit more management. People think it's straightforward, but
Like before you take someone in, right? If like a girl goes to a beautician, they have to do like a skin test, right? Do you have to bring people in for a consultation, like a patient, before they kind of go through and get treatments? With you?
everybody has to do a consultation form, sign a consultation form. Medical history is very important
Yeah,
because
I'd say the
people
risks are massive.
risks are massive, and people are funny with their medical history, and they say, no, don't have any medical history, nothing wrong with me. And then you do the treatment. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that I have this. And people do that quite a lot.
Okay.
Pregnancy, again, obviously you shouldn't do certain things, a lot of treatments when you're pregnant.
Right.
But this week we did some training on new products that we're going to bring in, which are very safe for pregnancy and people going through cancer. Which is a massive new thing that's going to come into the clinic, because for years we've been saying, no, you can't come in because you're having chemotherapy. And that's the time when you want something.
Yeah, you need to
You're going
that feel
through
good factor.
Yeah. So we've just done the training last week, and we're going to talk about that. So I'm trying to build a clinic for everyone,
Okay.
no matter what you're going through.
Okay, that's fair enough. And do you think like you'll move into like the longevity space, or will it just be aesthetics?
Yeah, it's going that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
This NAD, this NAD, and It's just
It's probably the next thing.
I'm boggled myself. Like, it's like my steep learning curve, and I'm in the industry, so it's very hard for people and patients to say they don't know what they need or what to take, or
Okay.
sometimes it is overload.
Yeah.
Certain things are good, certain things. Flaxseed, very simple. Flaxseed is great for you.
Right. Okay.
Glucosamine and flaxseed, fantastic for your skin.
Right. Okay.
So some of these are faddish as well.
Okay, and they're probably cheap enough remedies, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
pay premium if you go inside.
Tablets,
Yeah. Okay, yeah, interesting. And your academy, you have an academy as
We
well,
have an
right?
academy now, which is it was at the start. We started it a few years ago,
Right.
the Kerry Hanaphy Academy, and we did do introduction courses for how to do anti-wrinkle injections, Botox, and how to do dermal fillers. But it's more time for me at the moment.
Yeah.
So currently I am a trainer for Morpheus 8, so
Right.
I would be their KOL expert. So I do training on that, and I do training on the polynucleotides. Have you heard of them? No.
I've seen it advertised, right, but I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what it is, right? Because
That's another new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of new things. So we have two academies, the academy in City West, and we have the new academy now in Cork.
Okay. And is it a case like where someone can go to your academy, right, for like different things that isn't a nurse or a doctor, but wants to work in the aesthetics industry? Like, what jobs do you have for them?
We have positions with a skin therapist. So
Okay, yeah.
if you want to do your beauty therapist course, you need to do the second year. So what happens
Okay.
with some beauty therapists, there's the first year,
Right.
which is learning massage and learning about nails and waxing. It's the second year that you need to work in an aesthetic company
Okay. So you have
that
to have your
does
second.
high end Morpheus 8. So the
Right.
6 therapists that work for the Kerry Hanaphy Clinic all do Morpheus because they have a certain level of
Okay.
their qualification. So it's C-Tech.
Yeah.
So when you're a young girl starting out, sometimes we go for the easier option, the 1-year course.
Yeah.
You need the 2-year
You need a
course.
2-year course.
And when you're 21, 1 year, 2 year.
No.
Just do the 2 years and get it done.
Okay. And is it a case like where you would take on someone that's like 21, or do you prefer them to be a bit more mature and have a bit more life experience before they move into that kind of,
No, we're
No?
we're very open to all ages. And I notice nowadays, and I see it with my own. I've that 10-year gap, the 32, 22.
Yeah.
So you can meet a really good 22-year-old,
Right.
who's hungry.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for. Or you can meet a 22-year-old that only wants 4 hours a week.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily about what their skill level is; it's how hungry they are, and you get that when you meet people.
Right.
It's no, I don't do the bins. That's not my job.
Oh, really?
Nowadays. So there's a different outlook with people and what they're expecting in work. So
Okay.
you see it. You can.
Yeah, the expectations are different, but it's very individual dependent. You can see trends with certain age
Yes.
groups or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's very.
I think it's an inert thing in you as well.
Yeah.
It's a drive. Some people drive because if they get more than 20 hours, they don't get the social.
Okay.
So that's a certain personality.
Yeah.
Or like me, I didn't want to go down that road. Could have
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Single parent with 2 kids. I wanted
You wanted more.
I like to feel that I've
Yeah.
got it myself. That's a drive in me.
Yeah. Was the outcome or was your thought process that you wanted this to be the outcome? Couple of different shops and be the lead, like the market
No,
leader.
God,
or
no.
has this all just naturally
This has
happened?
naturally developed because I think when I actually think back, and if you understand certain areas growing up in the 80s, 90s,
Yeah.
we were all labelled certain. You're from where? Oh, you're
Yeah.
from Tallaght.
The postcode.
Yeah,
thing.
and it was, you're a single mum, single mum, and it was that kind of. It's like a friend of mine jokingly said to me, and he's from Blackrock, and he's a very good friend of mine. He says, we used to go up to Tallaght and throw fivers out of the bus, Now he said it as a joke, but
Yeah.
I always had that in the back of my mind because people would have, and they would still say now, you don't sound like you're from Tallaght.
Yeah, or you're from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I always wanted the best for my two.
Yeah.
And the only way I could do that was to
Just work.
work.
Yeah.
And the hard, you just have to, you get such
stuck
an
into it.
enjoyment out of it as well
Yeah.
when you've achieved something and you can buy that trip where you want to go, and I've
Yeah.
been able to my enjoyment that this gives me is travel.
Okay,
That
so
would be my
have you been anywhere nice or?
I have been everywhere. I literally came back from Montenegro there recently.
Okay,
Fabulous place. Myself and Barry did Vietnam and
nice. Okay,
Cambodia. Yeah, so we travel a lot.
okay.
So when I'm off, that's where
When you're off kind of
I'm
thing.
on a plane somewhere.
Okay, and how many times a year are you going away? Like, is it like 3 times a year? Do you have 2 big holidays a year? Kind of what
Yeah,
is
I
it?
tend to have a big holiday around Christmas time,
Okay,
and September would be a quiet enough time as well.
so
So
you can take away.
yeah, so we've done Australia, we've done. I'd love to do New Zealand. That's my
Okay,
next thing.
so you get there maybe this
Yeah,
September.
might do.
Yeah.
No, it's probably do New Zealand
Do you after?
Christmas. Yeah,
Okay, Chris. Okay,
yeah,
probably really nice at Christmas actually.
quite be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I've never done New Zealand.
Yeah. What about like other business investments? Like, have you ventured outside of like what your current business, and have you invested in other things?
No, but I did. Interestingly, it's obviously the way my brain works,
Yeah.
and it's like people say, "Oh, I'm going to do an entrepreneur's course."
Mm.
It's like that question: Are you born an entrepreneur, or can you make an entrepreneur out of somebody? It's like my brain. I saw Krispy Kremes before Krispy Kremes came to Ireland, and I was in my head going,
You're thinking,
"We need donut shops in Ireland." Not that I was ever going to do it, but I
yeah,
knew we needed them,
right.
but I wouldn't have had the money to do it. Before I did this, I actually had a business with Real Australia Works.
Okay.
So it's a guy in Australia has a factory, and they were aluminium picture frames.
Oh, okay.
So that was my very first business.
Right.
And it didn't flop, but
Right. A lot of lessons maybe.
yeah, I learned a lot from that. I wouldn't say it's the end. I've been always looking. I think at the time now, but
Yeah.
I think my daughter, who's 22, I have ideas like for her now. I could try not throw
Yeah.
too much at her because she has to do it herself. But I'm like, oh my God, her name's Alana.
Right.
I'm going AK Studios. Maybe we could go down that route because aesthetics needs social media content creation, and
Yeah.
there's a huge gap in the aesthetic market for
Okay.
that.
Any plans for the girls to take over the business, or have they any interest?
Emily, the eldest, she actually works, so she's the operations manager of the whole ship.
Right. Okay.
She runs the show. She likes to hide in the background. She loves it there, and so she doesn't do any treatments. So she runs
She runs.
very tight ship. Yeah.
Is the case as well, like where I know you kind of move around to the different locations. Will you go to Cork when
Yes.
that opens? Okay.
Can't wait.
And you've got like separate days in each clinic?
Yeah, so I do town twice a week. I do Swords once a week. I do City West once a week, and Cork will be once a month.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't really. If I might do it twice a month, dependent.
The demand is there.
Barry's from Cork. We have a lot of friends in Cork. Barry loves sailing. He's in Kinsale at the moment
Right.
in sailing competition.
Right, okay.
Big sailor. I hate it.
Not for you.
Absolutely.
You haven't got your sea legs yet.
I thought it was cool. I remember saying to my mum, "Oh my God, I've met a guy and he's got a big boat. He's got a big yacht." Okay, I'm like, I feel sick on it. No,
Yeah,
not for
it's
me.
not for you.
No, no.
Have you been on like cruise ships or anything like that? Or?
No, not for me.
Not for you.
Not
Just
for me.
stay away.
No, I'm on land. Give me land. Yeah. No.
And your other product, you've your own product line then as well, right? So
I brought out product lines. It's like, it could have done better, and it has still potential to do better.
okay.
It's more. It's which do you go for? Do you
Yeah.
build your business? Do you build another clinic? Do you focus on your products? Each clinic we sell a smaller range, but we've very good factor 50. We've very good products for prepping your skin for treatments.
Okay.
We have a nice lip balm, so very simple things.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
Where we get them made, he'd love them to expand, but it's just more time. I don't have time.
Yeah.
Time is my problem now.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to like step out of business, like the day to day of like seeing patients, like, or
Yes.
do you just love that kind of the
I'm
patient
still
face to
more
face?
clinical. I'm still more doing the actual injections.
And you
So-
just pay someone to
Yeah. So
after the rest.
things I can't do, I pay. I've learned that, and I think to build a business, there's no point me doing the books. There's no point me doing. We're very good accountants. We pay them well.
Yeah.
So it's pointless me. I'd rather be in the clinic doing a treatment.
Yeah. What's your total headcount now?
Ooh,
Would it
we
be-
are now. We just signed somebody up today, actually.
Okay,
So we're at
congratulations.
29.
So, no, okay, yeah.
Mm.
Was it a big jump from like having your PA running around answering the phone to now 29
Yeah,
employees
and
to be responsible for?
yes, and we have different people that connect with different people, so there's different managers for different. So it's
Yeah.
if I think about it too much, you just
Yeah.
panic.
Okay.
Yes, and it is hard. Some days, some weeks can be more difficult than others. People can be sick and they have a run of it. Or last year we had 3 people going on maternity leave, which is hard because they're gone for a year. One
Yeah.
of them including my own daughter.
Okay.
That was very difficult.
Yeah.
Because
Run the show.
she runs the show. So she delivered her baby on the Friday, and I think on the Monday morning she was doing the wages. So she didn't get much maternity leave.
Yeah, no,
So I owe her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she loves it as well.
Yeah, and having like being an employee, right, and being a nurse for so long, and now being like an entrepreneur, would you recommend entrepreneurship for people, or do you think like if you have a job and it pays well, stick at it? Like there's no.
Either way, there's like a PAY. Sometimes what you realize in life, when I had no money,
Yeah.
you dream of having money, and you think your life is going to be so much easier when you have money. And I'll be able to go to Dundrum. I'll be able to buy a whole new wardrobe of clothes. I'll be able to go to New York when I want, and I'll be fabulous. Then you have money,
Time.
and now you don't have the time to go to Dundrum and the time to go to New York. So your time becomes more precious. So I really love, like I said yesterday, I have a lovely big dog. Leave the phone at home, and I just get the most enjoyment. We're very lucky to live near Bushy Park, and I just love being down there. I actually get more enjoyment out of very simple things than I used to.
Than the materialistic.
Yeah. I wouldn't be particularly materialistic now, she says, when you see me on an airplane heading off, which is, she is with her champagne in her hand.
Yeah.
I look very materialistic, but that's what I spend. I don't buy handbags, or I wouldn't be that type of.
Yeah. But is that because of like the debt and kind of getting all that down, you realize like that's not where the kind of value is, or
I
the
think
reward
you
is?
realize it, and it's easier, and people go, yeah, right, like you're only saying that now because you have money. But I think sometimes when you don't have money, you think that's the be all and end all. But then when you do have money, it's not the be all and end all. And yes, it's nicer to have money and be miserable, as they say. You might as well have money and be miserable.
Yeah.
But you do miss the simplicities of life.
Okay.
I don't have. That would be what you have to give up sometimes. And you do lose friends along the way. Because of time, and sometimes it's jealousy as well, which is an awful thing.
Yeah. Have you lost many friends over it? Like,
I'd say, yeah, as not they just with
it's not intentional either.
It's not
like,
intentional. It just
because you're
happens.
busy.
Life is very busy for people,
Yeah.
and I think your decades that you're in, people that you knew in your 30s, you don't necessarily know in your 50s.
Okay.
And women do go through quite a lot of change in their 50s.
Yeah.
We're fairly miserable, really, at the beginning of our 50s.
Yeah.
And we kind of hormones, we kind of
all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like being a teenager.
It is. So we kind of, yeah. So you have to be nice now when your partner's 50.
But if anyone wants to find you or get treatments done, what's your most popular treatment and where can they find you?
So everything to do with me is my name, and it's Kerry, as in spelled the county Kerry.
Yeah.
And it's Hanaphy, Hanaphy, not Hanaphy, Hanaphy,
Hanaphy.
like Murphy. We say that all the time. And it's literally Kerry Hanaphy at Hotmail, or Kerry dot Hanaphy. Yeah. We've Hanaphy.Kerry.
Hanaphy.Kerry.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And can people still reach out to you on the Facebook or the Instagram?
Absolutely. We're, and I'm accessible half the time. You can be guaranteed if that message is being answered at 10 o'clock at night, it's me.
Yeah.
It's not a bot. It's actually physically me, because they always go, oh, thanks for the reply. I didn't expect a reply. And they kind of go, if they only knew it was me sitting on the couch at home answering the
I think
messages.
you got back to me pretty quick.
I do. I'm terrible. Lethal. In between watching a movie. But yeah. Anything.
But that's they say the busiest people are like the most effective communicators.
Well, you can't.
Right?
These phones are. It pops up and I can't help, and I go, "Oh my god, they want to make a booking." You wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't know, yeah.
No, yeah.
Look, thanks very much for coming in, Kerry.
No, and thank you, Connor. Really nice to meet you, and lovely. And thanks for the time.
A special thanks to Kerry for coming in and sharing her story. True inspiration. And if you enjoyed the episode, if you could like and subscribe, that'd be great. Or hit the follow button on Spotify. Thank you.